Hi.
Hi. Hi.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me enter people in the waiting room. Hi.
Hello, I'm Katrina. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, Liliana.
Hi. Hi. Nice to meet you too.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello,
Good evening.
Kiran.
I was just not able to get in. I don't know what happened. Hi, Liliana.
Hi. Hi, Kirian.
So nice to see you after such a long time.
Yes.
We have Katrina and Chris from UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, Katrina. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Chatri.
Hi.
Hi, Chaturi.
Who are we waiting for? Delia Pop. And let me go back to my agenda and
You've been very busy, haven't you? Very, very busy.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we are only waiting for Delia Pop to join us. Should we start?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so thanks everyone.
Because somebody wrote no that they have to leave at 6. So we don't have too much time. In half an hour. I think Katrina.
Delia's also. Delia's here.
Liliana also.
Yeah.
Hi, Delia is here.
Hi.
Delia.
Hi.
Hi.
Lovely to have you here.
Pleasure.
Okay, Mia. We are also waiting for Mia to join,
Mia.
right?
I think Mia wanted to leave earlier.
Mia wanted to leave earlier, yes. So we had to prepone the meeting.
Yeah.
How have you been, Delia?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Okay, so oh, Mia's there. Okay. Everyone has a long life. Hi, Mia.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Delia.
Hey, Mia, good to see you. A long
Hi,
time no
Mia.
see.
Yeah.
I know.
Hmm.
Hello, colleague. Hi, Mia.
Okay, great. I think we have everyone from the panel on the call, and thank you all for joining. We are also joined by Chaturi from SOS, who's a member of the organizing committee. So she's also with us. So thank you again for joining. And the purpose of today's call was to just know each other so that, you know, for the session, we know who are the speakers. And I had a couple of small agenda points was just to confirm with you your name, your designation, and your country name on the agenda, because that has to be published on the website. So I want your confirmation if that's been spelled right, the designation is right, and the country mentioned is right. And I had a small request to say, can I have your WhatsApp numbers, just, you know, to facilitate last minute communications, you know, during the convention, and then leave it to you to decide. Liliana is going to moderate the session. So Liliana, will leave it to you to understand from the co-speakers two things. What will be the format of the session? Do you want them to present for 5 minutes and then go to the question answers? Or would you want to, as a moderator, want to take questions, you know, and then let the panelists respond to your questions? What format would we want? Is something that all of you can discuss, and we can agree to that. And we could also, it will be nice if we can understand if we can, you know, all discuss and agree to what could be the intended outcomes of the session, right? So this session is the last session of the 3 days of the convention. In that sense, it is a very significant session, and we have almost global experts in your capacity who's joining the session. it will be on you to kind of give us the way forward of the convention during this session. What would be, from the 3 days of conversations plus the pre-events that we have been having as part of the convention, what is it that the care leavers are voicing? What is it that they are wanting? How can we capture that together? And how can we have a global framework of leaving care? So I think that to me is some of the important intended outcomes of the session. Ma'am and Kiran ma'am and Chathuri, you can add to this.
Yeah, so yes, I don't think there is anything much left to add. You've already elaborated it very well, but just wanted to refocus on the previous session where the youth and the other presenters will be summing up the previous 2 days and that day's outcomes. So we need to attend that session so that we can hear and get ourselves refreshed what they are talking about, and in this session we take on from there. I think that's what we intended to do.
Yes, perfect.
Perhaps I should explain the Voices from Care situation, because I think we'd had 2 invitations coming through from different parts. Debbie, the Chief Executive, was invited by you, Kieran, I think, and I was invited by Kieran in Eurochild, a different Kieran. So Chris and I'm the chair, and Chris here is a member of staff in Voices who may well do the session, or Debbie will do the session. So Debbie's on bereavement leave this week, so we haven't bothered her with the answer. I think initially I'd asked if we could bring a young person, but looking at the way the session has, there will have been all the young people's voices just beforehand, won't there? And Chris had an idea about a very small film. I don't know if you want to chip in about, it's really how much time we have each would be quite important to know, to see what we could fit into that and make it relevant. But do you want to say about the manifesto and things?
Yeah, so I mean, this is probably quite aptly timed for us because in May next year in Wales is the elections, 2021 elections for the new Welsh Parliament. And so we've been working on our manifesto for that. And one of the key things we're trying to do with it is to create a video manifesto, which is really basically saying, from our care experience young people, our community, what is it you want from the leaders, which is all about, having a commitment to be listened to, concept of strengthening legislation, having a real commitment, a meaningful commitment to care leavers, the importance of love, and the things around, not having profit, not putting profit in care before the young people. So we are going to be putting together a video for that. And there is the opportunity that we could play part or, it's all or part of it in this slot if we feel we've got time. It's being created at the moment, so I don't know how long that clip is yet.
One of the manifesto asks is about 1,000 voices. Do you want to mention, because participation, the views of care leavers. Perhaps just to quickly explain, Voices from Care is led by young people. I'm a co-chair with a young person, and the power in the organisation is held with the young people. So at any annual general meeting or general assembly, they can vote the professionals off if they want, and they can start again with different professionals. Luckily so far they haven't, but there's not many models, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to still be there. There's not many models, so the voice is really important. So I don't know if that slots into what participation is Eurochild's big agenda.
And that's the bit with this, 1,000 voices that's the title of our manifesto, because what we're going to be asking for is the First Minister, the leader in Wales, to commit to listening to 1,000 care experienced children and young people over the next 2-3 years, 3 years, so they can really build and create that sort of legacy for care leavers and care experienced young people. So that's yeah, that's why we've got that 1,000 voices element to things. And yes, and we've done our manifesto in conjunction with everything we do is in partnership with our young people.
So I suppose I just wanted to sound out if that slots into, you know, if we focused on that bit in this short time. So Liliana, I don't know if you think that's.
So I'm, thank you. So I'm still thinking, and I would like to ask for help, Ms. Modi and Lina, because I don't know where organizing committees, how organizing committee thinks about this. When I'm hearing this, my first thought is that this manifesto would maybe be appropriate more before, where good practices are or examples of care leavers. So for me, it's very strong, I think, to be there. And as I understood, this final session is just expert commitment to what can be done, roadmap, concrete actions that we can do to support them, to actually do together with them, to make them visible, or to make it happen. Actually, all the things that they said in the last 3 days. I don't know if I understood this well, Lina and Ms. Modi.
Yes,
I
think
this was my
a global declaration of the way the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and it's almost like a global manifesto then, if you put the national one earlier.
Yes. I think it's a great example. I think it's in the spirit of whole conference, but maybe later together with some other examples and things that are already done, so we can address again on this last session to this as example.
If you need anything like that from me.
Sorry, Chris, go, and then I'll go.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, if you do need anything before this session, so the video or maybe a young person to help present it with us, let it outside of the session we're discussing today, just keep in touch with me and let me know, and I can sort that out for you guys.
What I was thinking, because this is the last session and it's supposed to be this global overview, could we not maybe make a recommendation that this work is part of the build-up work for the Day of General Discussion that's going to occur in September? For me, it's a real opportunity it's a really important project that you've got in Wales, but for me, the aim is to make it something global, so all care leavers can benefit from the work that because there's so many care leavers across the world that are going to be part of this, but for me, it's to centralize them and move them to have a campaign, a global campaign, a bit like the global campaign that UNICEF launched on deinstitutionalization from 0 to 3. That really worked really well in Eastern Europe and also Latin America. But for me, wouldn't it be great if we had a global campaign for care leavers? I know that there's appetite from the Eastern, Southeast, EPRO, East Asia regional office from UNICEF. I spoke to them a few weeks ago and they said to me that for them, the area that they've really neglected is care leavers. So they're keen, and if you could start these, and I know that the care leavers in Latin America are very active as well. And so I don't know how we can do that, but that would be for me the thing that we could do. I know that the Committee on the Rights of the Child is also open to that. So it's about linking up this with the DGD preparation that's ongoing as well.
I think
Yes,
that
I agree. I mean, I think sort of my background with IFCW and You're a Child, you know, that's really, it is about sort of getting, as you said, the best examples together, but then what is the work after the conference, and the, you know, getting to the UN to put pressure on countries and the Council of Europe. And I don't know if the ASEAN Pacific region is still sort of functioning as a network. There's different institutions as well, aren't there? There's governments, and there's then the campaigners like the UN and the Council of Europe. outside. It's almost like, for me, it feels a bit like we should be saying, this is what we should all be supporting care leavers to tell their own governments, and then this is what they should be, together we're all agreeing, and we're telling the international folk that's what care leavers want and need. Does that sort of feel, yeah, I think it's knowing what the young people from other countries are saying. You know, we know what young people across Europe are sort of saying, but in terms of the other regions, you know, that's for other people.
Delia, I think you want to say something.
Yeah. I think I very much agree with Mia's comments. I think, and with Liliana. I think this is a global conference, and we want to keep connecting various initiatives. That's not to undermine any specific ones in terms of their geography, but really enabling young people to understand what could be the pathway for their voice and experience to be recognized at local, national, and global level. And I think there are 3 levels in which we can guide and offer information. One is for the lived experience to be amplified, we need to be able to create a pathway for young people with lived experience to participate. So that's number 1. Second, I think, and what are the opportunities for participation and engagement for existing structures or for individuals who want to? And I think, you know, us providing a summary of initiatives, groups, discussions, outcomes across the 3 days would provide people in the audience and those who would read the reports with a great opportunity to think, oh, I would like to be part of this, and I know where to go. The second, and this is for young people, by young people, the second element is, what's the infrastructure that is already in place, available for young people organizations? You know, where are the hubs? What are the connections? Where can we facilitate that peer-to-peer exchange? And again, I always favor initiatives like you guys in Wales that are entirely led and driven by young people. It's not an organization having young people supporting their, you know, kind of wider objectives. And so it's kind of, how do we highlight some of these networks, some of these initiatives across the world, and how do we encourage this crystallization across the environment, India and Asia, Southeast Asia and Southern Asia. And the last one is exactly what Mia said. Now, there is a very opportune moment for contributions into discussions that are directly relevant. And therefore, how can we offer an entry point for the declaration, for the representatives to be able to be engaged in the conversations around the DGD, and obviously to be able then to feed back. So I think I see this session almost like a recognition of the priorities and burning areas that the young people have highlighted through the 3 days. An opportunity for us to provide some guidance. And, you know, we all come from different kind of viewpoints, if you want, and we can take on board one of these areas and you know, kind of provide a little insight. And I think ultimately is to recognize that the conclusions of this conference will somehow be fed into the conversations for DGD. So I think that's how I see, and that when I read the documentation, that's how I saw the session. I think it will be very important for us to be reassuring, for us to kind of reassure that the conversations and the priorities chosen by the young people sit in the framework provided by the human rights. And I think there is probably another level which is more service focused. You know, what are the range of services and supports that young people need to leave care or aftercare, or the way it is called. So maybe a short recap of those discussions around, because I mean, you know, that's probably what's the most burning issue to begin with. And then, you know, we talk about more elevated things. And my last thought here is, I would love to be able to talk about leadership and how important it is for us to step back as professionals and to allow the lived experience to lead. But that's not going to happen overnight. So what is our responsibility as so-called experts in the field and leaders? How can we offer and create that space in a meaningful way to enable leadership? And I think, you know, there is a thread across the conference program that I think is we could highlight maybe some of those issues.
I agree with all that you've said. I think I've been in several of the days of general discussion in the UN, so I think it's important, but it's actually, in terms of real action within a generation, it's going to take time to get through from there. You know, in Wales we got the play UN recommendation on Article 31. So we've done quite a lot of that. But for me, it's sort of empowerment of the young people, and part of it is the leadership so important, because to resource proper participation to get Article 12 working, there's got to be a recognition that is important, and it's going to take resource to do it properly and not just tokenistically. Yeah. So you know, I think we could you know, we call it like corporate parenting, the responsibility of institutions for children, young people. But it's, yeah, I think, Chris, you know, how it goes into the global ask. Yeah. It sounds like we should be involved in the whole conference to really listen, or could we? I mean, I've got some commitments, and I think Debbie has, but in terms of the young people's views coming through, that's the session, Kieran, you were talking about before. That's the really important one, isn't it?
That session, actually, that will be a sum total of the previous 2 days, and young people will only be summing it up. That's the way we are hoping it will go, you know. So I mean, yeah, I totally understand, you know. Sometimes I wonder, at least in India, you know, we are noticing, you know, young people, it's more like tokenistic leadership, you know, and maybe we have not been able to work on it adequately. Maybe we have not been able to evolve it adequately, you know. So we really need to, I mean, I really agree with Delia Pop that we need to, you know, make it as a focus. How do we develop leaders out of them? And then we start stepping back, you know.
It is interesting because in countries where young people have their voices more, they are beginning to stand for political election at younger ages, and that's, you know, that's quite noticeable.
We need that.
Yeah.
And I think it's, as Katrina says, it's about having that sort of commitment, investment from leadership, because it cascades from that. Participation cascades that change. And I think
correct.
So that was the reason, you know, we wanted Mark Riddle to kind of, you know, address as the opening, you know, because we thought he will make a very good role model for all the young people who would be attending, you know. Yeah.
I mean, certainly if there's things you think about our young people could be involved in, please let me know. Just email me which specific slots would be ideal for them to come into, and I'll do my best to get some of our young people there as well. Because I know that's something they'll be really interested in.
Yeah. Chathuri, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, just one point to add, because you know that we are going to have this post-convention session on the 11th of December, targeting very high-level policymakers specifically, right? So I think it will be really great if we can make a connect between this last session and that, and if we can have like a very concrete, let's say 2 to 3 action points, which we can then take away and then present to these policymakers as well. And, you know, there'll be some practitioners, of course. So to make it, a, you know, kind of like a lived reality thereafter, you know, rather than, you know, of course, discussions are really great and all that, but at some point we have to make sure that these get translated into policies and practices, right? So that's the one suggestion that I had. Yeah, thanks.
I think that's important, and there are examples out there of where legislation has ultimately been changed to the benefit of participation and having governments having to acknowledge the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. I think perhaps there's less around care experienced children and young people in terms of legislation, and you know, but I think we want to try to be optimistic, because everywhere the young people have suffered the most with the COVID-19, and you know, that's you know, the methods of getting their voices through you know, is that, well, it's just been really difficult for every young person who's on their own. Absolutely. You know, out of care.
But this is an opportunity, Dr. Kiran and Lina, to connect this conference with the next one and kind of, you know, do you want to have like a 3-point agenda of what you want to do between now and the next conference to mobilize the young people, to support them, to continue these conversations? There could be some of these, you know, again, we could also look into re-emphasizing some of these initiatives that could link the work. So this is not just a one-off, and great, we spoke for 3 days and we are now all very happy and we go back to the status quo.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I will be very happy to extend a sort of an invitation to a leadership training. But again, I want to make sure that I'm working in partnership with organizations that can support the young people. And I just want to provide a sort of a free of charge at this point test course for a limited number of young people. So I don't want to make an announcement and to have a lot of young people who want to be part of it, but we can't really put this in place. And I will follow up with you, Kiran, to find the best way forward. And it's based on a public narrative approach of storytelling and helping people to tell the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now. It will be about, you know, 5 weeks. It will require internet connection. So that would be my gift too. It's a personal initiative that I want to follow up. And if it works, then we can grow it and we can put it in an Indian context, the infrastructure through the organizations like Udan Care and SOS and others that could support building the infrastructure. And I am very positive or optimistic that I would be able to mobilize some funder money towards supporting the infrastructure of a young people's association independent of the NGO, so kind of building the infrastructure of an independent voice. But that's to be followed up in 2021. I don't want to make any empty promises, but I will commit to doing this leadership course in partnership with willing organizations.
We would be more than happy, and we will talk to SOS and we will come back to you. Let the conference be over. One of the agenda, you know, we wanted to develop a resource, a repository website where everything related to care leavers will be available. and country-wise. So we've started working little towards it, but because the funding is such a big problem, we are trying to, you know, on the 11th, when there is a high-level policy meet, hopefully the skeletal website could be launched. And after that, you know, we will depend on everyone to, you know, start owning it. And gradually we would like, you know, a global network to take care of it. It should not be with either Udayan Care or with Chaturi. SOS. We would like a global network should evolve, and they should take care of this website where all kinds of repositories available. You know, whether you look for Zimbabwe, you look for Latin America, you look for Vietnam, or their policies and, you know, their researches, the young people's videos, everything will be available. You know, so
And
that's
also, you know, I think this is a lovely idea, Delia, because, you know, there was this idea which came from the caregivers themselves about a global network of caregiver networks, because we had a pre-event especially focused on caregiver networks and its role and importance and all that. And through that, we got connected with so many different caregiver networks around the world, and through this other declaration process and all of that. So I think, you know, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to bring them together, and through that create this leadership that you're talking about, right? I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, and being cross-cultural, I think it works really well, because there will be so much peer-to-peer learning as some of the groups are more advanced. I mean, there is a great European network of caregivers that is you know, very, let's say, more mature, because the changes and the systems and the structures in place favor that. There is an emerging really strong young caregivers voice in across East Africa, and with good participation, people in Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa. So there is a lot of learning, and being cutting across cultures, I think, will be very useful also for the young people to see the world through the eyes of others in other places, and learn from those experiences as well. I'm not sure how we are in Southeast Asia, but you're probably better placed. I would say, I don't know anything about.
We have no, we have only two caregiver networks currently, one in Sri Lanka, one in India, one being formed in Nepal, and also in Vietnam.
Okay.
Being formed, yeah.
That's good.
If I may,
after we did our research, which was published in 2019 and it was done in 2018, where we spoke to 435 young people and 100 key functionaries. Now the state governments are really taking cognizance, and they have started getting involved in developing these networks with the help of UNICEF. And you know, at two places we have joined hands with state governments so that networks could evolve. And in Odisha, 250 people's network government has announced, and government is taking care. So, you know,
which
one
is
of
the other state,
which is really good.
Odisha and
Odisha.
Madhya
Pradesh and Bihar, we are trying to evolve, but it is taking time because they don't have data, you know. But in Odisha, it went so smoothly, and 250 people, you know, state is, and when we did our one of the pre-event session where some researchers were presented, and Intrac group, you know, they presented, and they were talking about very few initiatives worldwide where the governments are taking interest in developing networks. Because after all, even if you develop a network, how do you sustain it? This
I
is
was just going to say that.
in African groups. They were quite angry with us that we don't even have mobile connectivity. We don't know how to connect. We don't have food on our table, and you are asking us to come for the conference. And you know, you felt so embarrassed and you felt so sad. I mean, this is also one issue which we need to look at in some point of time, because they were actually crying out for help, that we don't have anything, and you are asking us to come for a conference. How is this conference going to make my life better? You know?
I think that's so important. Years ago, I was involved in organizing a disabled children's global conference. And for a few months after that, some organizations supported the disabled young people to connect with each other. But then it gradually went, because you're so right, you've got to have the support, because internet is not necessarily possible for a lot of young people.
Mobile, you need a smartphone. How do you get it, when there's
Exactly.
no food on the table? So
Yeah.
these are very real issues,
Yes, yeah.
and unless it becomes a little bit more equitable, we will really not be able to bring them actually on the same platform. We may be talking about it. We may, again, like Delia said, tokenism, that's the word.
Yeah.
I'm myself worrying, about even our conference. We've been able to piece together quite a lot of them, but how many will be able to attend, we don't know.
I mean, it's interesting about that concept, isn't it? Is that, we talk about it in the UK about that equality of care, equality with those who are care experienced, those who are in care, and their non-care experienced peers. But actually, there's equality within care globally, isn't there? That there are different parts of the world have different legislations, some more positive than others. Some are really fighting for basics. Others are fighting for more advanced sort of, because they've got their will of their political leaders. And I think I'd be fascinated to that as a conversational point is actually, we all in our own individual organizations talk about equality and how important it has to have equality for our young people. But actually there's that global equality and how care experienced young people fit in, or young people in care leavers fit into that. I think would be really interesting.
I think one outcome from this session, somehow, if we could get hold of all the good organizations that can support the development in their regions, to be identifying themselves, because, what you've just said, Kieran, now is really interesting for me, and how we build, but you've got to build on people, on organizations with the understanding of the issues for care experienced young people and the influencing power to their institutions, or supporting each other in how to influence, for these young people, because the way we've managed in various parts of the world to influence has been the young people speaking themselves directly to the politicians, not me, or and that's, but it's the support for anything to sustain and not be tokenistic. Like, we've been involved in a conference, so what, didn't make any difference to my life at all. But trying to empower young people so that they can influence their local politicians in about their schooling or education or whatever. It's actually quite exciting, this conference. I'm so glad you've organized it. It's really good.
Really hope it goes well, because this connectivity issue that, I'm noticing amongst youngsters, that's my major worry.
Can I just add 2 points about the young people connecting together and things like that? There's a couple of initiatives that we've been working on, linking in with our other UK organisations, but equally those from America, Australia, New Zealand, and some other area, Italy, I think as well. Is have you guys heard of Care Day?
Yeah.
So having care that in, so on, I think it's the third Friday in February. It started as a kind of UK thing. In the last couple of years, it's grown and grown and grown. That actually, that we have this, particularly on social media, this massive outcry of organisations and young people themselves, more importantly, leading on sort of promoting care experience, voice and issues. And because of COVID-19 this year, we are trying to organise a webinar kind of event day, which I can certainly keep you guys all updated with. But if we're saying after this conference of places that you can continue to connect with other care leavers, I would absolutely suggest social media with Care Day. And another one, which is, now this is incredibly new, because I literally I've just got off the phone call with someone this morning, is around developing this concept of Care Experienced History Week. So actually, and a group of young people, with the help of an organisation in Scotland, have actually started to map not just UK history for young people and care leavers, but global history in certain areas of where, where the first sort of referencing to what we would class as care leavers are today. And so in April this year, or not this, next year, 2021, they're going to be starting this concept of Care Experienced History Month. As many countries have these months, the sort of, and I think we're really interested, and we're just going to start to do some work and I'm looking at Katrina as one of our trustees of Voices here, maybe some funding to try and release, to really understand a history of being care experience. And I just think that concept, and I think it would be way too soon for this year, but just that concept of a global history and understanding of care leavers across the world now and in the past, I think would be incredible. So I think it's about connecting movements that are already happening and existing and actually widening those opportunities. And those two are ones I would certainly recommend.
So now I think, we should come back to our original and ask Lily, how do you want to take this forward so that we are all mentally prepared?
Yeah, Delia, did you want to say something? Sorry.
I just wanted to add global citizen, because it's already a platform, and it's something again that could maximize the impact of young people's voices. So let's park that, as this could be a way for us to enhance the key messages going forward and think about campaigns and so on and so forth. I think, again, like with all good things, we need to give this sufficient time, oxygen, nutrition, for the young people to be able to take this forward with their own voices, in their own time. And what we are more like gatekeepers, we are facilitators, we hold the little signs on the roadmap, and therefore we provide them with the guidance and with the access of there is, what I can say from my other hat of working as a donor, I know that there is a shift in the donor priorities across the world, and some of the big donors are focusing their investment in lived experience. So there are opportunities. And I think the last reflection that I had, we are all, great champions and enthusiastic. I think we just need to make sure that we are not setting any unrealistic expectations. And we can hold some of the kind of good things to happen until we have a clear way forward, rather than create expectations that we won't be able to fulfill with the young people. That's something that I've learned working with lots of care leavers, is managing those expectations and taking things at a pace that works.
I think that's where some of the simple ideas, like a day in every country for Care Day or something, if you have the commitment of a government, they can light up a building or something, just do something little that's not huge, but then I know that's worked quite well. So young people feel they've been valued, but it's not actually taken all the capacity of staff time and bringing people together and all of that. But yeah, it's a challenge for you, Liliana, to keep us on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Debbie, but we brief her.
Yes. So many interesting things are said here. So I'm trying to combine everything to put it in some very simple. I think we need, this session needs really to be very clear and very simple, as Chatri said. Okay, let's put just few points that can be easily communicated later, so it's clear what are we stand for, experts, and how we can support them, as Delia said later on. So as I see this all things that you said, there are great ideas, and some of them, as you said, is actually should be ownership of care leavers, should be done by them. But I think it's great that we say that they can hear on this last session. Okay, we will have a global network, but we need you to run it later on, or we can provide you this, for instance, training for leaders, but you need to be interested and make leadership later. So my idea for now is, and I don't know how do you see it, maybe to after everything that is said days before, maybe to just give you space, like 5 minutes per each of you to say your impressions, or what are you thinking, like you did now, for instance, what can be done in global things, or for instance, this is very valuable information from you, Delia, that changing of in funding is happening, so they know what are possibilities. But maybe then after this 5 minutes, maybe we can make the 2 or 3 points. Okay, we dedicated, we will in future, in few months or in some point of time, we can do this 3 things, and then this and I can write them on the whiteboard, so it's immediately visible to all participants, and then this can be also taken to later on in December to communicate with politicians and make it forward. I don't know how it seems to you.
Liliana, I think that's a great idea. I was thinking that maybe what we could do is, if all of us take it from different angles of upcoming opportunities. So like I would feel most comfortable to talk about what opportunities there are at the UN level, like what's happening in Geneva, what's happening with the Committee on the Rights of the Child, with other treaty bodies, Human Rights Council, because maybe they don't know that they have these opportunities to make their voices heard through these procedures.
Great.
And so that's 5 minutes of me, but then I could see Delia, for example, with this leadership opportunities and funding opportunities, so that everyone has a separate thing. And then at the end, it would be next milestones, like these are the opportunities in the next 6 months. These are the long midterm opportunities, and this is what we want to achieve in 5 years' time. For me, this network to be sustainable, you want to have something that's really working in 5 years' time. That for me, the dream would be that all the regional initiatives come into one, and it really is global. And that's going to take time, because you're going to learn to trust each other as well. Because I know that the Latin Americans are going to have to learn to work with the Asians. They're going to have to learn to work with the Europeans, and everyone has struggled to get where they are. And then they're going to have to learn to trust each other, to share that experience across countries and across borders. But that's something we could say 5 years' time. That's what we should be aiming for.
I think our contribution from Voices from Care probably is about participation in action with Article 12 of the convention. And I was thinking, not to go back on the discussion, but Delia, what you were saying, you know, we've young people have just managed to reduce the voting age to 16. Those sorts of things that are, you know, has been from campaigning. So perhaps our contribution could be about influencing through participation.
That's brilliant.
That makes sense. Is that okay, Chris?
Yeah, that's
maybe, you know, we would like to pitch in by, you know, talking about this global repository that we are wanting to, and how, you know, globally, you know, different partners, different people, they must come together, because on our own, SOS and Udayan Care will not be able to achieve much. So we will need everybody's participation. And since again and again we heard young people even in the pre-events talking about the global network, and you know, that's where perhaps I could speak about.
Okay, so cooperation.
Cooperation, yeah. And you know, developing a way forward through a global repository and global meets, and you know, bringing them together. And not to forget, you know, like again and again it has been stressed upon here, and this is my first lesson, you know, when as soon as we started organizing this this conference, you know, the expectation setting from in the young people's minds, that's very, very important.
Could I just check? when we were, Voices from Care was invited, because we had 2 different invitations at the same time, I had it from you. Are we sort of promoting Europe, or Voices from Care is involved in obviously Wales, UK, and Eurochild? But it's just, I just wanted to be clear. You know, you've talked about regional and global. You know, we're very involved in the participation across Eurochild as well. I don't know, Liliana.
Yes, I know for this, but yeah, I don't know about invitation, because Miss Kieran can answer this. But I think in this session we should have a focus on global thing, because it's global conference,
Right.
and voices from care really have experience in this participation. So participation is like your it's a topic, and on your example, share opportunities.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, that's
Yet
great.
at the same time, what is global? You know, if you look at it, you know, these are pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and that makes it global. You know, you start with local, regional, then only you go global. And every bit, you know, there is nothing, you know, as such as a global thing on its own. It's all these regional pieces that are going to make it global.
Yeah,
These
I
different
think that
experiences.
I agree. And it's a really important point, because I believe the global is the ability and knowledge of young people to understand where, in their very particular place, geography, and circumstances, where do they sit in the bigger global picture? And we need to demystify all these, you know, the big institutions and that are being seen as some sort of an untangible, unattainable horizon. And I think that's another message that we need to give, that, you know, that they are supposed to be serving them. They are meant to be providing accountability and transparency and follow up. And they are the institutions that they need to engage with. But if they do not know, and if they don't have the confidence, again, so I think we can, the whole idea of a global is how the relevant context makes the global.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So example.
I am afraid I will have to leave. I do apologize.
I know all of us need to.
I had a lot of stuff that I had to shuffle around. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to that panel. And Liliana, I'll be waiting for you to give us any kind of follow-up points. And the clearer you make, the better will be, because we have very little time, and we want to just make sure that we meet the expectations and we deliver.
Okay, just one question before you leave, Delia. Do you want me to present you a short, or it is better, in my opinion, that you each of you say before?
Yes, I think it's better for us to introduce ourselves. It's less formal, and it's part of our 5 minutes, so we're not spending time with.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. So please send everybody your phone. Oh, many have come. Yeah.
It's come on the chat box.
Yeah, but some are WhatsApp, some are telephone numbers. So be mindful of that. Okay, thank you. And Chris, do tell all the care leavers to at least participate. You know, even if they're not coming in as speakers, they should at least register. And, you know, because the more care leavers we have, the better it will be. And they can send us their opinions if they're not getting a chance to speak. They could at least, you know, because we are wanting to develop a report which captures as much as possible. So participation is necessary. So Chris, you said that you'll be able to help us with Wales and, you know, to New Zealand, to Australia. Please do, you know, spread the word around for the conference.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you.
Okay, just before we say goodbye.
I wanted to mention one point, just responding to Katrina's point of the invitations. I think, you know, what excited us was that, you know, Katrina, you were the founder of Eurochild. So that I think gave us a lot of, but it is, I think we leave it to you to decide who wants to come in as a speaker on that day. So it's completely open between you.
Actually, yes, internally, Chris and I were talking about this, and that's why I asked the question about in what capacity. You know, and you could possibly, you know, 2 minutes of me and the rest of voices or whatever. You know, now you've met us, you decide what you think would fit in. But I think the actual sort of involvement in participation, you'd have the voices view, but in terms of international lobbying, that would be me. So
yes.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? That's why. I mean, I'm happy to be involved at any point, but it's a very short session. So, you know, you as organisers, you tell us. But voices will definitely have their bit. But you know, whatever you think, it's been really good to work with you, meet you. Liliana, did you have other points?
Yes, I just wanted to wrap it up. Is that I will write a short sketch of or short of the session. So what we decided here. So please and send you all. So you can please add your comments or any changes. So we will adapt until 25th.
That will be awesome, because you have only 5 minutes and you want to say whatever is relevant and absolutely, you know, put to the point. So it would be very good to think about it beforehand and be prepared.
Yeah.
Colleagues, I just have to just say that the Committee on the Rights of the Child has another event just before that I'm also speaking at. And so I'm not sure what time our session will finish, if I can watch the other session before we speak. But I will definitely be there for this session where I'm supposed to speak, because that's why I accepted. But given that it's with the Committee on the Rights of the Child, and I think it's an opportunity for us to keep that link, but I can explain that as part of the UN work. But they're doing something on the 30th anniversary as a follow-up, and I can't really say no to them either. So, but I'll be at both.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay,
for
thanks,
time.
everyone.
Bye, Chaturi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.